right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks. Unless we start to place a sense of urgency on this part of us that has been atrophied for so long, with
Mhm,
all that we're going through now, and this is kind
mhm.
of my thought. I believe universe is saying, get up to speed quick because time's running out. We are going to need these
Mhm.
faculties to be able to understand the dynamic of what we're dealing with, to understand our true power, and to survive what whomever the enemy is. And I don't like to look at it as just, enemy, and
Sure, yeah.
it's more complex than that, but
Mhm,
we must start to engage this aspect of ourselves if we're going to make it. I've always felt that way.
mhm. Yeah, I think it is, the most key aspect in navigating what is upcoming,
I
you
agree
know, um,
100%.
and I think with the advent of everything that's coming with artificial intelligence and quantum computers, the big wild card, AGI, um, I think that without even meaning to, humanity will give up the reins. Like, we will be more likely to forget about this birthright that we're talking about. So
Mhm.
that's why I think it's really important at this time that we kind of gather ourselves while we're on this precipice. We really gather ourselves, take a pause, take a moment, and think about where we are standing right now and
Agreed.
prepare ourselves for what is coming, and that's one way we do it. We need to look at all of these abilities that are innate to us,
Mhm.
take stock, and decide what we wanna do. One of the, in social psychology, something that's really interesting is they've found through lots and lots of research that, if you are gonna go to a restaurant, I'm gonna use this example, and you
Mhm.
wanna eat really healthy, but you just go and you end up looking at the menu and you don't, right? You just end up picking whatever you want. But if you go prior to going to the restaurant and you make a decision in your
Mhm.
mind of what you want to choose and how you want to eat, if the decision and intention is made and solidified inside you before you go, you're some huge percentage higher, more likely to
Mhm.
stick to that. So there's actually like a psychology to taking this pause right now and really dropping into a deeper collective self-awareness
I love it.
and deciding what we wanna do, deciding not to let AI just roll away with us,
Mhm.
deciding to keep this version of sovereignty. Because I just feel like if we just roll with this and we get all excited at the new bells and whistles, I mean, look what's happening. Every day there is new AI news coming out. It is
Yeah.
just like crazy, and we have to
Richard and I
pay
talked about
attention.
this, right?
Yeah, we have to pay attention because our jobs are gonna be on the line. It's going to fundamentally change every single aspect of humanity. So I think it's so important right now to be thinking about that sovereignty and what will be the only area that we will have sovereignty over, and it will most likely be our minds. And so what do we
Absolutely.
wanna do to prepare for that? What decisions do we wanna make, prior to the like, right when this is about to happen, what decisions do we wanna make?
Right.
And it doesn't mean that we have to avoid AI, but it just means that we need to make an intention for ourselves.
Be judicious and understand the long game is how I've put it. David Icke has a saying, I gotta say I love Mr. Ike. He's taught me a lot, and he
Yeah.
said, "Know the outcome and you'll understand the journey. Know the outcome and you'll understand the journey." In other words, you can reverse engineer it thought-wise
Yeah.
are, when you can kind of see what the projected outcome is, the dots will connect as far as the trajectory that's getting you there. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing here. Those of
Yeah.
us that have done some research, and I'm loath to say I know exactly where this is going. I don't think any
Right.
of us do because I think it's
Oh,
far
we
more
don't.
nuanced and complex. But we have an idea that where they're trying to take us, whoever they are, human or non-human or both,
Right.
is potentially a dangerous thing. Potentially. Now, knowing that journey, we can see all the things that are happening. I'm guilty as charged. Richard and I were talking about ChatGPT. Girlfriend, I've been using ChatGPT. I'm like, what the what? As I'm using this thing, and I'm very judicious about, how
Yeah.
I'm using it. I may use it to just kind of do a thought experiment or
Yeah.
whatever. But I am blown away at how potentially valuable it can be, but also how it can sweep away literally humanity. And you're talking about us who kind of know the long game. I don't know about you, but I've been participating. We're all participating in AI
Oh, yeah. Oh,
at this
yeah.
point. But just be very, very clear as to these steps that they're using to sweep people. I don't know if that's the right word, to hook people into the lure. Now next thing you know, it's gonna become, this is your life. This is it. There's no other choice.
Right.
It's exciting and scary at the same
Yeah.
time. I don't know.
I totally agree with you. I think there are lots of things to be excited about, especially when we're talking about health advances. I mean, there's
Mhm,
no one who doesn't have that touch their lives, someone
mhm.
who could extend their life a little bit, or once all the information can be amalgamated about cancer and different diseases and Alzheimer's,
Right.
um, that's when we're all going to say, okay, we're not resisting. We want to see those advances. We care about our human family. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's gonna be this
Tricky.
incredible mix that's gonna be I mean, I think it's gonna be beautiful and confusing,
A
and,
paradox. It's
a total
paradoxical.
paradox. That's a good way to
Mhm.
put it.
Yeah.
And, we'll be having many of these conversations, I think, while we try to navigate what's going on. But the
Mhm.
speed of it, I think, is what's going to catch us off guard the
Yeah.
most.
I
And
think it
that's
has.
why Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
that's why I was thinking that um, making certain decisions, like for myself, returned to increasing my meditation time. It's always the baseline for
Mhm.
me,
Mhm.
reconnecting into ourselves and trying to remember that while this is happening, like the deepest self-awareness we can get to is always the key. It's
Yeah.
it's always the key to some sort of sovereignty through any uncertainty. And this is no exception. I feel like this is the time when we're going to need all of those things that we've learned the most. You know, I don't mean to steer it back in this direction, but I think we all, when we start thinking about it and if we have really thought about what you have and we have, and we really see that we are just facing this wall, this
Mhm.
mountain wall that we just don't know what it's going to look like. I can't help but continually come back to uh, us as a human family and what we
Mhm.
are now. I know we may be unrecognizable with Neuralink coming on. People are going to change
Mhm.
their bodies, electromagnetic fields. You were saying it before the show. Our biology is going to have a hard time with all of the technology and all of the things that are happening with food and drink and water. And
Mhm.
they may be looking down the line at post human. And that might be where
Hmm.
everyone is thinking who's in running the show, behind the scenes,
Seems
the
like it.
post-human. Yeah, the
Mhm.
post-human. Because
Mhm.
the human physiology, I don't think will be able to stand to this long term. It won't be able to stand up to this. So,
Right.
if they're already thinking post-human, I
Hmm.
feel like that's what we have to sort of rearrange our minds to.
Hmm.
Not that I want to I'm not saying, like, let's embrace post-human and think of ourselves as post-human, but it's kinda like what you're saying, to look at the end, one of the goals, and look
And work
backwards,
your way
or
backward.
inevitabilities. Maybe I shouldn't
Mhm.
say goal, but inevitability possibly, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then I it makes me wonder when I look at I'm going a little bit all over the place here, but I've been sort of digging into DMT research and, all these different sort of areas where there appear to be, and the question is if there are non-human intelligences communicating with us and reaching back to us? Is there something is it all about now, this moment in time, where all of the abductions, close encounters, um, modes of communication through, I'm gonna call it a DMT technology, but were are all of these things possibly I'm just asking the question, I'm not making a statement. Um, could they be peaking over the last several decades because of this, and
Mhm.
because all of these other entities, whoever they are, know what's coming. We
Hmm.
don't know what's coming.
Hmm.
Like, as much as we think about it, I'm sure that we can't even imagine what it's actually gonna be from our current human perspective. But is there something going on where they're increasing their communication with us to invite us to open something up in ourselves? You look back to the ancients with
Right.
"Know thyself," the temple of Apollo, and I always thought people always say that, but I really pause on that. The ancients, this one thing that's left over, "Know thyself," and it
Mhm.
just doesn't leave me
Hmm.
at those words. I always think, is that the key? And for me personally, I feel it is the key, but it's almost not haunting, but what have
Prophetic.
they all been saying? What is all of this attention on us? What is going on here?
Mm.
And so I feel like there are all these arrows pointing at this place right now in humanity. And we have
Mm.
this choice of to get swept away or to not get swept away. And
I
so
agree
it's a
with you.
perfect time for us to look at the things that you were bringing up of
Mhm.
looking at, sort of the history of what, we've learned about what we can do with our minds,
Mhm.
and also what's happened in the recent past with what we can do with our minds with the remote viewing program,
Which we're
and,
gonna get into. Oh, yeah.
yeah, and, what we might choose in this moment. So,
Mhm.
hopefully I
Oh
didn't go
my
on
goodness.